Alrighty, we will go ahead and get started. So if you can stand with us, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance first.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, well, thank you for being patient while we were getting microphones reconnected here. All right, well, this evening is our work session, so we are going to jump right into our presentation. So we have Strategic Plan Focus Group number 3. So if they are here, come on up.
So, good evening, everybody. How we doing? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and press on presents. So, since our last time in February, our exceptional team has been determined to realize the year one goals defined in our engaged and supported community partners focus area of the D51 strategic plan. As a team, we remain steadfast to the task of intentionally cultivating relationships of trust and respect with our families and our community partners. Honest and open communication to our entire community about how we are collaborating with our stakeholders and allocating our resources is a top priority. This evening, we're excited to share the outcomes of our hard work this year with all of you. I want to be sure to emphasize how much I appreciate the dedication and effort of our staff and community partners serving on all of our implementation teams. Every single member of these teams played a valuable role in supporting this work, and I'd really like to express sincere gratitude to all. Thank you very much, guys. So each and every one of our D51 scholars deserve an exceptional experience, educational experience. Every day, families trust us to inspire their children to become creative problem solvers that are culturally connected and fully prepared to thrive in their chosen career and in life as adults. As we know, we know that today's youth face different types of challenges and are navigating a world that's vastly different than the one we all grew up in. That's why it's so very important for our entire community to have the opportunity to be involved in supporting our learners. This might be a dated version. Let's see. This real quick. Sorry about that. Maybe not. That's okay. Now, since we've begun our work this year, we've kept a steady focus on defining ways to help our entire community better understand how our budgets operate and how some of our key factors that we need to consider when we decide how to allocate our resources. Tonight, Mel and Clint's team will summarize the progress we've made and explain how we will continue this effort next year. After this, Angela and Andrea's team will share some exciting updates about the progress we've made in identifying who our current community partners are and how they're supporting us specifically in the areas of career exploration, student wellness, and strengthening collaboration with our families. They will also share how they plan to continue this work moving forward into the 23-24 school year. To end our presentation this evening, Callie and I will describe the progress we've made so far this year in our effort to develop communication strategies to ensure opportunities for students and families are clear and available in multiple languages to meet the needs of everyone in the community. We will end our portion of the presentation with an explanation of how we will continue to work over the summer and into next school year. Now, I'm going to pass it on to Clint and Mel for their presentation on transparent and effective resource allocation.
Yes, and we'll just rotate up. Okay. Good evening. Given the limited number of seats, I think we'll play musical chairs a bit and switch so each of the presenters can be at the microphone. I'm Dan Prinster, and I'm a community member on the Transparent Resource Allocation team. and happy to be here tonight. We'd like to provide you with a recap of the progress that we've made over the last couple months, and then provide an update on the goals that we'll be working on through the remainder of the year. We'll start with Dan Bollinger, Palisade High School, and if your name's Dan, we do coordinate our colors on our and then Clint will speak, and then Rachel Talley, Human Resource Data Analyst, and then finish up with Ashley Zhang. So, Dan?
All right, if you can go forward on the slide by one. As you can see, this is the wrong. I think we're supposed to start at like slide 48 or 56 or something like that. Oh, okay, so our year one goals, we're on track, right? Our committee, we are on track, so that's a good thing, right? And then our year one goals, knowing how our budget operates, building baseline knowledge systems of processes, we've completed that. Creating a district and school profiles, we're still working on the school profiles, but we're nearly completed with that. We haven't started the inventory of programs, allocations, and the review of programs. That's our work we're gonna be doing next year. And then we've started on the capital resources. We're reviewing the district capital resources and how they're prioritized and funded. I think that's kind of the work of the next 2 years, so.
So can you hear me okay? As we previously shared, our goals on providing accurate and improved data collection, we've really tried to work on what we need to improve on, and specifically with facilities. I think there were some areas that we identified this last year that needed to be improved and how we gather data there. So our team is working on ways to improve on how we collect data, specifically, again, with facilities and through our work order system. Some of the things that we're trying to gather is labor hours, supplies, all of the items that we use. We talked about that earlier this year. Do we know how much labor hours we're spending at any specific building or how many supplies we're using? That's important, so we're working on getting better at that. We also expect that in this next year, we'll have a new system in place, a new work order system in place that will help us collect the data and be a little bit more robust on how that gets delivered. This system will assist in improved data collection through our work order system. We believe that these changes will improve our ability to make sound financial decisions and recommendations when we talk about operations of our buildings. And then additionally, we also want to talk about what we're going to be doing with facilities master planning. Over the next year, our district will embark on a refresh of our facilities master plan to further identify our building's needs and resources. And in line with that strategic plan, we of course it will provide an opportunity for us to engage our community partners and get them involved in that process as well. And then this is a little bit of a lofty goal, but I think it's going to be really important with resource allocation, and that's developing and doing a facilities condition assessment, and then developing a facilities condition index with all of our buildings. So along with the master planning process, we'd like to see the development of an internal facilities condition index, similar to what Colorado Department of Education does. They do it not every year, so it's not in real time. It's like a 5-year condition assessment that they do, and then they post that on the website. I'd like to see that done in real time, so we know exactly what we have in our buildings: roofing needs, HVAC units, all of those things that we need to track or should be tracking. Our district would utilize the Facilities Condition Index to assess and making resource allocation decisions among the buildings within our district. So it's a little bit lofty, but I think it's doable and something that we can shoot for the next year. All right, thank you.
So as Clint alluded to, we're going to continue that capital resource review goal by engaging in a refresh of the master plan that will help us direct priorities for future facility needs. We'll also begin compiling an inventory of existing programs and their allocated resources. And then as we look towards next year, we will work to develop a process that will evaluate new budget requests based on their alignment and impact with our strategic plan goals. In addition to that, we believe that as other strategic plan groups progress, they may identify resources that need to be reallocated to support the achievement of their goals. And so we will work to engage with other groups and identify areas to support their work.
Any questions?
Good job.
Go back
I
to that
know, the most important
the tough
part.
one.
Questions.
Can you go back to that slide?
Sure.
Oh, there it is. Oh, no.
Oh.
This one here, you got it. So when you're compiling inventory of existing programs and allocated resource, so what's an example of like?
So what we were gonna pull, just died all of a sudden when it gets me. But what we were gonna pull was just looking primarily at our general fund budget. And we have set programs that CDE defines for all districts. And then we have some that are a more detailed level for our own districts. So it might be, an example of that is instruction would be the broad category, but intervention is an example of an instructional budget that we could drill down to that level. And so we were going to put together just a list, include that in our budget books. We used to always. So just get back to putting a little bit more detail in there as having that as a published piece, but also for our own internal review and assessment in the following years. So we're looking at the like supply and purchase service budgets that are included with something, but also the FTE that follow along with any of our programs within the district. So where we want to use that data in year 2 and year 3 is once we have this budget process in place that tells us if something is in alignment with our strategic plan goals and in support of that, that we have something to benchmark our current resources against.
Okay, so if I understand this, so you'll take a particular program and see how much of the budget goes to that program. And then the plan will be to evaluate the effectiveness of that program to see if it continues or needs more or less, or is that, and who would do that evaluation of the program effectiveness?
So where we see our
Sorry.
It's on. It's just, I don't know. So where we see that data, we really see the work of our committee as providing data and coming up with structures for these, not necessarily the decisions for how that data is used. So we're going to compile all of this information. We're looking at different ROI systems, for example. Like we shared an article that we're pondering for next year and how we look at it, that Fairfax County, which is a huge district, and kind of the cycle that they examine their budget on, and whether it's something that they can evaluate versus the impact versus the dollar amount that are spent, or whether they're looking at it as a cost avoidance type of impact, that they have all of these different structures in place that they evaluate how they're spending resources. And so that's something that we're lacking as a district right now. We know we have a process that we've added budget requests over the years, but kind of that review and evaluation of those is a piece that we could improve upon. And so that's what we're looking to use this data, not only to understand and be able to communicate out that current inventory of what we're doing, but to be able to build structures going forward to review those.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? It's great. That's a great idea. I love it. It's almost like an internal audit of our programs. So to follow up on Doug's question, so identifying the program is one thing. Identifying the effectiveness of that program, and you threw out one idea, you said ROI, and that means return on investment, correct? So looking at the return on investment might be one way, but so I just want to be clear, you are proposing that this team will come up with the metrics to measure the effectiveness. Okay.
We're going down that path, yeah. Go ahead, Rachel.
So I think it's dual purpose, right? So we would have some basic metrics that we would be able to measure against, but I would also say it's whoever's requesting that resource, whoever is overseeing that resource, because there may be softer impacts that we're not seeing, graduation rates, lower expulsions, things along those lines. So I think part of that push is instead of just collecting the data at the end, you have to ask those questions at the beginning. So I need these resources to do this, and this is my intended outcome. So then you're starting to set those standards of what data you want to see at the beginning, and it allows us to track it on through and see if it's successful or not.
Okay, thank you. I think that lost me a little bit. So you're saying that, so I was saying there's a program and there's an effectiveness, and both of those, and the effectiveness has data associated with it. And you're saying the data associated with it are data that can be used for things other than just the program.
Well, I'd say it was the program. So a lot of our program is based around instruction or what's happening with our kiddos. And so each program may have a different intent. So it may have a different focus. And so that focus would have to be well defined with data specs associated with it. So how are you going to move the needle? Yeah, on that specific item.
Yeah, okay. I love this idea. I love this. I feel like it's going to be so hard to parse out all of the contributing factors. But I love the approach, and I think that that's great. I had one other question, but it failed me. I was going to ask for the state timelines for this building conditions. I thought they were done every 2 years. Is it every 5 years?
I think it's every 5 years, but I'll double check.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
The last ones we had were the 2020 ones. And I thought that I had some from 2018 as well, but maybe they are always coming and they just make sure they get every building every. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
find
'Cause if they're doing it, do we pay them to do that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think the timeline would be pretty relevant, because if they're doing it every 5 years or every 2 years, how can we piggyback on their
Right.
very hard work? Yeah, it's so much work.
Absolutely.
They're so long.
Agreed.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. All right. Good? You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, transparent and effective resource allocation team. Next up is our effective community partnerships team. That's not on. Has to be lit up. There you go. So, thank you for our transparent and effective resource allocation team. Next up is our effective community partnerships team.
Thank you so much. I want to begin just by doing some introductions. The committee members, it's been Andrea and me leading it, and then Bo Tobin has played a very key role. Candace Carnahan, Jody Deers has been really helpful. Kayla Brown, Raul de Viejas Decker, Gabriel Otera, Joy Hudak, Trish Gialanza. Eric Ward has been so dedicated and come to all of the committee meetings, and so I really want to give a big shout out to you, Eric. Tabitha Britt, Martha Graff, Sarah Schrader, and Sonia Gutierrez. So we just want to thank all those folks for playing a role in this, because it really helps to have their input. As you know, we are charged with focusing on mapping the following partnerships and their engagement level: student opportunities for career-connected learning, wellness, and supports beyond the classroom for staff and students, and engaging with families and deepening relationships. And tonight, we really wanted to start off with a few celebrations, and so I'll turn it over to Andrea to begin those celebrations.
So yesterday we hosted a middle school career fair at Colorado Mesa University, who is certainly one of our valuable community partners. This provided over 1,400 seventh grade students an opportunity to tour a college campus, some for the first time ever, and to explore careers ranging from agriculture, healthcare, and public safety to STEM, business, and skilled trades with 50+ local businesses, organizations, and educators. This is just one example of the impact our community can have on the learning of our students when we come together.
And our second celebration tonight is what transpired directly after our presentation the last time we met. As you know, we have reached out through DLT Weekly to continue adding to the community partnership tracking tool. And the day after our presentation, the Grand Junction High School Academy team emailed both Andrea and me and asked us to come learn about their academy model that they are implementing. They felt we could really collaborate on their business connections with them and that it would really focus on the post-secondary workforce readiness. So that was an exciting thing to happen right after our presentation.
So, one of our goals was to map our partners and then identify gaps in partnerships. As we shared last time, we have over 200 community partners, but we still see a couple of gaps. We now know that we have partners in both student and staff wellness and family partnerships, but we're lacking data around those. After receiving input from CEI, we've decided to add to our tool a new tab to collect data on our family partnerships. We have it broken down by school to identify and gather information for PTO and PTA groups, accountability committees, volunteer coordinators, and D51 Foundation ambassadors. We believe this will help in determining building level and resource gaps, expand communication impact, and build grassroots advocates, which helps to grow leaders as they find opportunities for future involvement in D51.
We believe that working together, we can really ensure that each and every student has the resources and support they need for their brightest future. This matters because all of us are part of D51. And with that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce two family partnership advocates to briefly share the importance and impact of partnering with our schools. And so I've asked each one of them to introduce themselves and share a little bit about how they see that partnership working.
Hi there, my name's Ressie Barrett, and I'm the past president of the Wingate Elementary PTO, and now I'm just a board member, but I can tell you just from starting as as my child was a kindergartner, we started raising funds and doing different community events and how important those community events are to just bridge the gap of education as an institution and then families coming together in that school community. We run about 6 different community events during the year. Sometimes they're free events like bingo and things like that, movie night, family movie night. And then we do just parent events, and then we do family-friendly fundraiser events. When I started on this PTO, we were raising $10,000 a year, and now we're up to about $55,000 a year. So the engagement that our families have is very high. We'd always wish that it's higher, but we have about 10 parents that are board members of our PTO, and then about 20 to 30 volunteers. And a lot of them are business owners in the community, so we look at how we can leverage different partnerships with the events that we're doing, and really just strengthening the families and the togetherness, and what we bring to the table are these community events. We also highlight our principal where they do a kind of an update to people that go to the PTO events. And then they get to, if they're on the board or if they're a PTO member, they get to vote on how those funds are raised. So we've had like a 2-year goal of Aquas boards as one of the things. And we're 2 away from every classroom in our community to have one. So, we look at those partnerships with families, and I know we kind of step on each other's toes every once in a while when we're doing silent auctions. But with this database, I think it would really help identifying the communities and then the families that own businesses to help those partnerships. So thank you for your time. Any questions?
Hello. My name is Carrie Bollinger, and I'm the principal at Tope Elementary. Tope is a STEAM school, which means that we practice problem-based learning. We want our learners to feel empowered to solve problems. It's taken a while, but our staff is just about as good as our students at looking at problems and coming up with multiple solutions. This ideating and finding solutions is one of the reasons that we have been able to do what we do. Partnerships with families have been an essential part of what we do at every level. In fact, becoming a STEAM school started out as a problem. We pulled students, parents, and community members in to help us find an option that provided a unique pathway for learning. These partnerships continue to help us grow and develop a strong learning community. In fact, many of our PBL solutions have come to fruition because of our parents and the community connections that they have. Parents have presented to us as experts in the field. They've served on panels. They help students prep and practice for panel time. They are a natural and integral part of what we do. Right now, this is what we need. We need families and community members to come together to help ideate and create solutions to all of the problems that we are facing. And what an excellent time to come together. So many problems. I mean, opportunities out there for us to find those solutions in order to support our precious children of Mesa County.
And thank you, Ressie and Carrie, for coming tonight, just to highlight some of the things that are happening at both of your schools and how family partnerships are so important with that.
Okay, so looking forward, thinking ahead for our next couple of years, we are wanting to deepen our understanding of how community members currently partner with D51 and also how they want to partner with D51. And then we can use that information to develop a menu of opportunities for engagement. As we mentioned earlier, our other goal moving forward is to strengthen our community partnership tracking tool by adding a new tab and collecting data on our family partnerships. Again, by doing so, we really hope to identify building and resource gaps at each school, expand our communication network, and build grassroots advocates and future leaders. Any questions?
I do have a question. What kind of advice would you ladies give the other schools to get their PTOs and things like that, that cooperation going? Because I know I mean, it's great that you two have it going on, but I've been to schools where they can't get but 2 or 3 people at their PTO meetings. And, you know, so if we're really trying to, you know, close that gap and build that communication, and it's going to take our parents and our community, how do we do that?
Well, I think it's a great idea to get and I haven't done this, but it's a great idea to get the PTOs and PTAs from different schools. And, you know, once a quarter, we could just brainstorm on what all we're doing to strengthen things, you know, and hey, we've got this on the calendar. Let's make sure we don't do community events at the same time. I mean, you can have like a PTO 101 class, you know. There's a lot of resources out there, and it's just getting together and talking about it and making it happen. I didn't know that everyone didn't have a PTO. Like, I had no idea. And it's crucial to every elementary, I think. So I'm happy to help with that.
I would also say, in the past, I know that the foundation has had things like lunch and learns for the PTOs and PTAs to come together. And sometimes your foundation, D51 Foundation ambassadors, are members of that as well. But I could see that as being a great possibility of coming together and helping to share what works well at one school. I was the former co-PTA president at Wingate for 3 years, and so I just saw that need too. But I think there are lots of opportunities.
I love all of these questions and ideas. There was a few, I know the PTO at Chipeta was reaching out to other PTOs to have a PTO get together to start to brainstorm ideas and see what works for schools and what has not been as fruitful. I love having some central point, because yeah, I know that PTO has been struggling with how to reach everybody. And when you find a school that doesn't have a PTO, you know, of course, bringing in the principal to figure out how to, support that principal and teachers in developing one. I think that, I love the idea of having
I think it'll be a tool people will use a lot, actually, Carrie, if we have that all in one place.
Yes.
And that's why we felt like it was necessary to add that extra tab so that they could potentially, principals can utilize that and the PTOs and PTAs.
I also wonder if, I was thinking when you said that $55,000, my goodness, that is astounding. Great work, great work. I was also wondering if we could partner you up with a school that either,
That's just where I was going to
yeah,
partner a really successful PTO.
yeah,
Somebody that's struggling and really share.
mentor them.
I mean, really put them in just a one-on-one partnership together where they could work together and share those ideas and share some of that big love that you guys have had over at Wingate.
Well, that was we're all thinking the same thing. It's one thing to go to a school and have a presentation about here's what we do.
Yeah.
But to many of our schools that aren't there, there's that pyramid of hierarchy of needs. And they aren't even ready to, if you gave some schools those advice, they aren't in a position to even go after those. There's base things that a foundation that has to be developed, like you have at your schools, and that gets back to the idea of partnerships or sister schools or brothers, whatever you want to call them, but teaming up, you can't do but I mean, again, we're not here to come with solutions, but I think you've brought up some ideas that could reach out to other schools that would love to be where you're at, but how do you get there? And it takes that partnership more than just, here's what we do, but we'll help you to do that, but it's a lot of work, because I know just dealing with your own schools, tremendous amount of work. And
I've always thought it would be good to team up with other ones and say, okay, here's our events. Can you guys volunteer for our events? And we'll volunteer for yours because, the parents end up volunteering for like the fun run and you don't get to do it with your child, but if you coordinated that together. And maybe it's the schools that feed into the middle school that might
Something
be
like
a
that.
good, like sister, brother.
Sure.
Relationship.
But that concept of reaching out,
I would say, I think part of the issue is, I think somebody mentioned a while ago, like, who's the point person? So our district currently doesn't have a family engagement, family partnership department, and we've talked about that. And I know, a lot of the work that Tracy's starting to do, they're gonna talk about that some in the next group, but is around how do we strengthen those family partnerships? And so, a district that might have a point person for that could help coordinate those things, but we don't really have a department in the district right now that could be helping with that. So I think some of the work that they're proposing to do in the future could help with this and have a point person help coordinate the PTO presidents between different schools and have shared experience with a school that maybe is struggling with some of these things. So yeah, that may be the root of some of the problems is we don't have a department that focuses on that solely. And it wouldn't be fair to put it on, the foundation or the CTE group, but if maybe, Tracy's team, that could be something that could be a focus for the future.
yeah. But that's really what you need, is a point person to coordinate that. And I like the idea of the feeder system. Sometimes even schools within a feeder system are struggling, in that area. And, but I think there's a lot of promise and opportunity. So get after it. I know you are. That's terrific.
Any
That's
other
it.
questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, make sure it's on, right? You guys hear me? All right, so thank you, Community Partnership Team, for that awesome update. Before I begin with our final presentation of the evening, I do want to take a second just to recognize publicly the names of the folks who participated on our committee as the Communication and Connection with Families Committee. Lisa Urena, Carrie Cooklish, who's no longer with us, but she was with us for most of it. Nellie Garcia, Callie Berkson, Estrella Ruiz, Lance Seldine, Jamie Chiro, Zeb Miracle, Kim Davis, Joy, who's kind of double duty because she's helping a lot with the community partnerships, Hudak, and of course, myself. I always like to thank myself, right? So having said that, tonight our area is going to spend some time recapping our year one strategic plan goals and discussing where we are in those goals, and then some of the outcomes we've seen so far. The communications department completed our communications audit in late fall of 2022. And you guys can see up there that we have completed that goal. And after analyzing those results and the data from the audit, we're developing a plan for our year two goals. We're also on track with our second goal that's primarily focused on increasing how we communicate with families whose primary language is other than English. We've intentionally partnered with our colleagues at the Migrant Education Program to host a couple of different kind of monthly meetings so we can really hone in on that goal to better meet the needs of our migrant families. One of the meetings is a focus group meeting, and we're very intentional about getting information from the parents about what else do you need to help you feel better connected to school. So that's been a really cool. We call it Charlando con Estrella y Claudia, and that just means talking with Estrella and Claudia. We have another one called Noche Informativa, which is once a month. And these are topics that we talk about that we got from a survey last year that we did that families said they needed to learn more about. And so we do have monthly topics. We hold them, the sessions in Spanish. And we actually invite district leaders to come and speak to our parents about the topics they're interested in. And sometimes our district leaders even have to put on the headsets and get some translation or interpretation, and it helps bring perspective. We've recently started a meeting around mental health, specifically because parents have said, hey, we want to know more about mental health. And so we did our first one last month. A couple weeks ago, we have another one coming up this month. So those are some things that we are really working on to try to make sure that we're strengthening connections between our multilingual families and our buildings. The last time we presented, we walked you through our communication strategic plan and our 5 goals to proactive communication with students, staff, and families, brand awareness, family and community engagement, internal communications, and employee recruitment and retention. Tonight, Callie will quickly outline where we are in each of these communication goals and how we're moving toward year 2 goal of implementing streamlined communication tools.
Okay, so we all know that safety and security here in District 51 is a top priority. And so when we conducted our communications audit, we received a lot of feedback from our families about the communication surrounding emergency incidents or incidents that happen in the schools. And so right now we are working strategically with our safety and security department, because some of that feedback was that when these incidents happen, when we conduct shelter-in-place drills and lockdown drills, parents are hearing through the grapevine that their students were in a lockdown or they were in a shelter-in-place, and the communication isn't necessarily passed along that it was a drill. And so we're working with the safety and security department to develop those communications that will be just templates that get sent out to families as soon as the drill happens, because again, we can't tell them beforehand, but afterwards we can certainly communicate with them before their student has the chance to go home and tell them that they were in a lockdown or a shelter in place. So our families will have some of that information proactively. In addition, we're looking at a 2-way communication platform, and Tracy and I will talk a lot about this a little bit later. But so right now, texts and emails to our families when something is happening at the schools are only available through a computer, which isn't always very convenient in our jobs when we're out and about and in the schools. And so we're researching a 2-way communication option that will not only help with engagement, but will provide us better accessibility to send those critical messages to our families and our students when we aren't at a desk. And then brand recognition and awareness. We have developed our website steering committee to guide us through choosing a website vendor. That committee did take a hiatus for a little bit, and so we're here shortly. We'll reconvene and we will look at the in-depth process of kind of creating that or completing that website platform demos. And so we have demos scheduled, or we will get demos scheduled with 3 of the top website vendors that are used by schools throughout the nation. Family partnership and connection. So one of the ways Tracy and I are approaching family partnership is through streamlined communication and data analysis. We've been in the process of demoing several two-way communication platforms, and our plan is to implement one of those chosen platforms on a district-wide scale next school year. Not only will these platforms make emergency communication and district-wide notifications easier and more accessible, but they will also make teacher-to-family and school-to-family communications more manageable. These platforms offer a variety of tools, but a few of the key highlights are they offer two-way communication between our staff and our families. So having a communication platform where our staff and our teachers and our administration can talk directly with the families of their students, and then in turn have those families be able to send a really quick text back and get right back in communication is going to really streamline that family to teacher and that school to family relationship. And then it will also naturally facilitate some of that engagement and conversation that we're looking for. These platforms also serve as a data analysis tool. So through these platforms, we can track when schools, areas, and classes are best engaged. And then this data tracking is going to allow our communications department, the migrant services department, and potentially other departments, depending on what data the platform can provide, an ability to start engaging those specific demographics and area of our district that we might be missing, or some of those areas that might need a little bit more attention. And then this is something I'm really excited about, native language communications. So right now, one of the largest difficulties that we find in our communications is that our platforms don't communicate in native language to our families. So what that means is that when we send communications, it's not going into the language that our families have selected that they prefer to be communicated with. So essentially, when we develop a communication, the comms department has to work really closely with our translation services, and then they'll translate the document, and then we will go into our system, and we have to check a box that says translate, and then we have to select all the languages we want to translate it to, and then we have to override the communication to the correct translation. So it's a lot of back-end work, and these platforms are going to streamline that process, and they're strategically designed to communicate to our families in their native language. So when we ask our families to choose their preferred language, our communication will be sent directly in that language. There's not going to be a need for us to seek resources to translate those communications. So these two-way communication platforms are built with intentionality, and implementing one of these platforms would be a big win for our district, and it would help us communicate and engage more effectively with our stakeholders. And then moving on to internal communications, we're still in the process of working on implementing our event master calendar, which I know we talked to you a little bit about that last time. We'll share this calendar with all of our school sites, and they'll have the ability in real time or ahead of time to go in and share events and happenings at their school campus. And then I'll be able to share that with departments like Dr. Hill and our senior leadership and safety and security, so that our offices all kind of know what's happening within our school buildings. And this will really help that school engagement community. And then employee recruitment and retention. So this is our last of the 5 goals. We're currently partnering with 14K Media in collaboration with our HR department on a series of recruitment videos. And then we are still looking for some ways to rejuvenate staff and get them excited about the upcoming school year. So more information will be shared on that as we get closer. That's kind of what we have for right now.
When it comes to better connecting with our families, a couple of things I'd like to highlight, and Callie talked a lot about our two-way asynchronous communication tool. But we are excited about that possibility. We think it's really going to be a game changer. Another program I'm really excited about is our home visit pilot program. Just last week, we completed a training for approximately 36 D51 staff members to participate in our D51 home visit partnership program. We're starting our effort with a small spring pilot. We're focused on visiting preschool families that will be attending kindergarten next year. And we're going pretty small scale. We want an easy lift. It's a busy time of year. There's a lot going on in our elementary world. However, over the summer, we're looking to broaden our scope and really focus on our transition years. So we're looking at, of course, pre to kinder, but also 5th to 6th and 8th to 9. And we trained a variety of staff with a variety of skill sets. And so we do have the ability to really go in and do some more targeted home visits if building leaders feel like it'd be beneficial to strengthen relationships with these families. You know, our focus for these home visits are really just basically getting to know parents, understanding hopes and dreams, and just really opening up lines of communication. So that's kind of what we're focused on for this program, and we plan on doing it through the summer, and hopefully we'll do a fall push before our grant money runs out, where we can help compensate staff for doing this. Another thing I'd like to highlight is our roadmap for family partnerships. We are partnering up with the Colorado Education Initiative to create a roadmap, and by the end of the week, we'll have completed my project orientation meeting with that organization, so we can really get rocking on this roadmap. The roadmap will help us identify key priorities and set strategic goals that will help us improve how we're partnering with all of our families. Actually, one of our CEI partners is here tonight, and she's taken some data, right? And so the discussion we were having just a little while ago around strengthening our PTO structure is something that we're going to talk about at our orientation meeting. But I'm really excited because I think these conversations are really going to add to our ability to meet these needs that we're identifying through this process of implementing this strategic plan this year. So this has all been very helpful. Our family communications toolkit. So we're currently collecting feedback through some of the meetings that I explained to you guys earlier at various family engagement activities that we're going to use along with what we learned from our roadmap to create a family communications toolkit, and we're going to be ready to share that with all of our D51 families at the beginning of the 23-24 school year. And then, it's not up there, didn't make the final cut, but I do want to also just highlight the wonderful opportunity that we have with the Colorado Statewide Family Engagement Center. It's a 5-year grant, and we will be getting support from the National Center for Family Learning to create the infrastructure necessary to become a model district. So we're one of 5 districts across the state to participate in this effort, and we will convene regularly with the other 4 districts so that we can share ideas, celebrations, and strategies. What's really exciting is the director of the program is, she'll be here in Colorado supporting all 5 of our districts. And she works directly for the National Center for Family Learning, and they're doing wonderful work all over the country. So Colorado's lucky to have them, and Grand Junction and Mesa County D51 is lucky to be part of this effort. As we look towards next year, we'll be using what we learned from our work over the summer, as well as what we learn as we develop our family partnerships roadmap to help us create the portfolio of communication tools that we will use to implement in our year 2 goal.
Questions?
I had a question about the two-way communication. How do principals feel about that? You know, I'm just wondering if, you send communication out to 300 people and they can just quickly text back. I wonder how much inundation will occur, and how rich that engagement actually is. Because if the principal's day is either shot, right, or they can't respond to all of that, and so then it's unanswered. And so, yeah.
Yeah, so the nice thing about these platforms is you can set pretty strict parameters on kind of not only how much or how many communications people can send, so depending on what level you are at the school, but you can also turn off the ability for it to have two-way communication. So if we're sending district-wide communications, say we have a snow day and we need to send out communication for a snow day, I prefer not to have 20,500 people respond back in a text message. And so there is the ability to turn off the two-way communication. A lot of that two-way communication will likely be utilized through the teachers. And so principals have the ability to target either specific classes. They can also do their school, but there's some customization that can happen on the communication level on the back end to mitigate response overload.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. That's it. So this concludes our presentation for the evening. I want to thank you, actually our team, for all the hard work this year. Very excited to build on the momentum that we've created during this first year of implementation. This will be the last presentation that we are giving you guys this year. I truly believe that the goals outlined in our Engaged and Supported Community Partners focus area will help us garner the trust and confidence from our community that we need to realize our vision to engage, equip, and empower each and every student, each and every day. As we continue to build the infrastructure for authentic and meaningful family partnership at D51, we're going to be able to connect our families to student learning in a way that we've never seen before. The Family Partnership Roadmap will serve as our on-ramp to help us be in a position to best take advantage of the 5-year statewide Family Engagement Center grant. The exciting thing is that we will have the chance to collaborate with the statewide partnership organizations and the other 4 partner districts to share best practice and ideas. Thank you so much.
All right, up next we have Proposition FF, Healthy Meals for All update.
Good evening. How's everyone? Great. Well, I'm excited to come and present an update for School District 51, where we're at with Healthy School Meals for All Kids. You might remember during the COVID years, we were doing free meals for all kids through the United States Department of Agriculture federal waivers. And then that ended this school year. And so we returned back to where families have to apply, and only some of the families that are qualified through that process were able to receive those meals for this school year. So we're going to provide you an update on that. I want you to know that the presentation is only about 7 slides, but they're real beefy slides. I intended these slides to have links that you as a board can go through at leisure on your own time to kind of go through some of the links. And if you have questions later and even after this presentation tonight, I'll be happy to answer those. So let's kind of go through what's occurred so far. So Proposition FF went to the state of Colorado voters this past November, and it was approved. That bill here is linked. It's HB House Bill 1414, and that does start effective this 23-24 school year. One of the things that the bill and legislation targets is to help eliminate stigma for students in cafeterias. One of the things I noticed as a school district nutrition director in our cafeterias in Mesa County is that definitely occurs. There are students who don't eat, especially in the upper elementary years and middle school years, because they feel like they're looked at as the free kid. So this legislation will help eliminate that in our classrooms. Another item is the administrative burden of collecting lunch fees. That's always kind of a pain for parents and staff, always chasing and going after that. And then finally, I left a link here at the bottom that talks about how this Healthy School Meals really increases student achievement and what this will do for school meal programs for us and across the state. If you look at one of the most impactful things that is out there for childhood hunger in our country, actually, are school meals. They're one of the largest nonprofit organizations that help contribute and help take care of childhood hunger, along with nutrition. So this article that I've linked here for you not only goes into that, but it has 60 evidence-based research articles that talks about how important healthy school meals are for student achievement, health and wellness, and mental. So I want to talk a little bit about the participation and the funding of it. Yeah, during COVID, I wanted to kind of give you some numbers here. We have 21,000 students approximately in school at District 51. And during COVID, during that 2-year period, about 9,500 students, actually before COVID, about half the students in Mesa County would participate in school meal programs. During COVID, that number jumped up to 13,200 and nearly about 4,000 students per day. And so it's pretty significant. It really showed us that as a district, prior to COVID, we were always about 45% free and reduced on our lunch percentages. And then during COVID, we went up to 65% nearly in the number of kids that we were feeding. And I really believe that speaks to several factors. I think it speaks to the families that don't apply for fear of stigma. I think it speaks to there's a huge amount of Medicaid households that currently don't qualify under the state regulations, and others. But anyways, I don't want to drive down that rabbit hole too much tonight. But anyways, the bottom line was this: there are 4,000 additional students that will benefit from this as a district if we opt in going into next year, and that basically equates to about 2,000 families. The majority of the funding will come from federal still sources through the USDA. I project that in Mesa County, about half of our reimbursements or half of our funding for school district or for the school meal program will come from that. And then the remainder will be from the state, this new funding. I want to make sure to remind community members watching online and the board tonight that school meal funding is completely separate of the District 51 General Fund. A quick just reminder, our school district is looked as the best practice district in the state. We started with a lot of grant money in the millions and millions of dollars back in 2013 and retrofitted our kitchens with equipment to do scratch food cooking, and we've made a lot of those improvements. But I want to say this will help us even further it and entrench it further. And by the way, if you look at that slide there, you see the Carnita Street tacos? Those pictures that you see on our district website, that really is our food, okay? That's right. Yeah, thanks, Doug. Some people say that, is that really your food? Yes, that is our food. We proudly cook from scratch every day in every school. Oh, by the way, on that last slide is a link if you want to go in and look at that, any of the meal items. One of the things that the funding is going to do in the year 2024-25 is the following. It's going to provide additional funding for stipends and or wages to make sure staff that are in nutrition service positions are at market level in their locales against restaurant and other competing hospitality industries. We experienced that as a district about a year ago. You might remember I had a board member that came out and helped me serve at Palisade High School when we were short-staffed. Thank you. When we were down staffing at 20 out of 40 schools a day. And so anyways, that's going to help us to have market-level wages to be able to not only attract but retain staff. Secondly, it's going to help districts and ours increase our local sourcing. Right now, all of our local apples, or apples from September to November, are local. All of our milk throughout the year is local. But we want to expand that. We want to be able to get more food from Western Colorado farmers. This kind of funding will help with that. And then Melanie's going to talk about the at-risk in Title I.
Right. So as we've been excited about this opportunity and knowing that we would be able to opt in and offer this to students next year, there were also a couple of substantial funding sources that we wanted to make sure wouldn't be have an unintended consequence of negatively affecting those funding sources. And so as more information's been coming out from the state and as they've been finalizing some rulemaking, all of that information we've been continuing to monitor and gather. The two funding sources were Title I, which Title I are some federal dollars that we receive every year for our at-risk students. So it is tied to those at-risk students in order to support their needs at those highly impacted schools. That's about $5 million that we receive every year. And so we wanted to make sure that by offering meals to all and having the potential to receive fewer free and reduced lunch applications, that we wouldn't be then decreasing our amount of funding there. So overall, the state and district Title I allocations are already based on census data and not directly on the free and reduced lunch data. And so we're confident that our district allocation won't be impacted by participation in the Healthy School Meals for All. The thing that we will need to come up with as a district is a different metric other than the free and reduced lunch applications of how we distribute those dollars out to the schools. And so that'll be one piece, but our overall dollar amount won't change or be impacted. The second is our at-risk funding factor, which is a factor within the school finance formula that is a contributor to determining our PPR rate. And that's about a $10 million factor to us. We do have a higher free and reduced lunch percentage than the state average, and so we do benefit from that more than the average school district across the state. But there are some changes going around with just how that at-risk funding factor is calculated in itself, unrelated to this. And so that's another piece that there's been a statewide work group that's been working to prepare for the implementation of a House bill that was passed last year that would change that at-risk measure within the formula. Rather than being based on that free and reduced lunch application data, it'll now be based on what they're calling an identified student percentage. So far, we actually believe that our percentage is likely to increase because now the Medicaid eligible students that Dan touched on briefly, they will automatically be a direct certification category. And so we think that that'll increase our percentage above and beyond what we were calculating under the forms. That state work group is still continuing their work, and they're actually recommending a further implementation rather than next year out to 24-25 due to some other statewide factors. But what we do know now is that they have some count equalization and hold harmless provisions too. So even once this new at-risk measure is put into place, a district wouldn't lose funding in that next year as a result of that. And so given these two pieces and that information that has been gathered over the last couple of months, we can feel more confident with the information tonight.
So, D51 will opt into Healthy School Meals for All starting this month. There's a link that I did a little snippet on the slide here that basically shows and indicates that we're, like what Melanie was just stating, we're still waiting on the application instructions from the Colorado Department of Ed, but we can start that process this month as we do the registration for the community eligibility pilot, which is due a week from yesterday. So anyway, so there's a lot of steps still to be developed, like she had hinted at, that we'll go through as a district over the next, actually 3 months. July 1 will be the official last step of the process, and then we'll be able to start effective with the 23-24 school year. Again, the main concerns we had for waiting this long, she's already hit pretty well. But I just wanted to show you that was where we've landed now as a district. I've left links here for the board, for community members, staff, and parents that can go into at any time. The CDE, that first link, is a great document that talks about at great length some of the things that Melanie was hinting at and some of the things I've talked about. Also, communication is going to be important, so I'll be working with Callie over the next month, or in the next few weeks. We'll do a press release. But then we'll also be sending out flyers over the next few months that CDE has created that will help explain the why and the what to Healthy School Meals, what that means for them. So anyway, so we're working on that. Kelly, I hope you're ready. Yeah. Anyways, and then staffing. We are going to be needing more staff. So I've got some set dates. I'll need all board members at least once a week. If we could do a rotation. No, I'm just kidding.
It's fun. I enjoyed it. Put me down.
No, just kidding, yeah. But anyways, we will be posting positions with Nikki and her team's help sometime in May. Of course, we're going to place our staff first. But anyways, yeah, we'll have about 10 positions that we'll be posting. Fortunately, we kept some of the positions when we were going through the short staffing last year, so we wouldn't be in a position where we needed to hire 30 or 40 people going into this fall. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the families in Mesa County. I'm excited for those kids. I think it's going to help benefit learning and behaviors and all of that. So, questions?
So were you able to get chocolate milk this year?
What's that?
Were you able to get chocolate milk this year? That was
Yes.
Okay.
We're actually working on strawberry milk for next year. That's been a #1 comment from our students. Yeah.
Just quick question. This may be unfair, this is to Melanie, just because you threw out, we obviously have a lot of sources of funding for our district. And you were mentioning, and where you're at, that these aren't from our district budget, from our Fund 10, there's a lot of outside dollars. So how much, Melanie, do we, just ballpark it, if you can, if it's not meant to be unfair question, federal dollars, do we get, not just for the food, but you were mentioning, for our title schools, I mean, just ballpark.
I wish I had those numbers because I just pulled them the other day actually for the paper. So I can definitely send those out to you guys. It's substantial. I think federal revenues, if I remember right, were about 15% of our overall revenue sources, whether that's going through nutrition services or Title I or our ESSER dollars.
Busing, aren't there federal dollars that support our busing?
I don't believe so. Maybe for SPED only, yeah. Otherwise,
There's a lot of those dollars.
There's a lot of categories, a lot of different grants. Most of them ongoing. SPED is the other big one, the 6B funding. So it's substantial. Yeah. 15% is what I'm remembering.
$8, when we took the whole budget, that was, when we were looking from outside sources, then local, it's about 65%, 60.
Within our general fund, yeah.
Within our general fund. There's a lot of dollars that come in to help support, like you said, kids learning, safety, health, all those kinds of things. So it's been a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great that the state's finally going to use algorithms and equations to get to that level of funding versus the old school process.
Well, and this is so terrific because it does so many things. First, the stigma aspect, right? But then just seeing the before and after COVID, how many more children are benefiting from these kinds of programs that we need, right? That better whatever, that's what our kids need and families need. So that's terrific. Appreciate your leadership, both of you, and all this. It's a lot of work, everything. Do exemplary work.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So are you saying that, so the state, if we're talking about the general fund, the state is about 2/3 and we bring in about 1/3 locally? But that's just the general fund.
That's just the general fund. Yeah, so we're kind of talking about a couple different things. The general fund, we receive very little federal dollars because most of our federal dollars are for a specific purpose, which means that we house them in other funds for whatever that purpose is, whether it's our grant fund or nutrition services. So there's very few federal dollars that go into general fund. But if we were to look at all of our funds cumulatively, that's where the 15% comes from. Yeah.
So what proportion do we actually bring in locally if we're looking at all of our money? Because, I'm used to saying 1/3 of it comes in locally, but it sounds like that's actually not true. It's less than.
It's 1/3 comes in locally from our school finance formula funding. So what the local dollars that 1/3 doesn't encapsulate within the general fund is that we keep our 2017 mill levy dollars separate and we keep our bond debt redemption dollars separate. And so those are two other funds where local dollars come into it, but it doesn't fund our per pupil revenue, if that makes sense. Okay. And like I said, I did just pull all that stuff so I can forward it on to you board and have all those numbers not from memory so that they're accurate.
I think it's interesting people understand that we're supported, thank goodness, by outside entities, right?
Yeah, we have to be. Yeah.
Our community, our kids, our families. Shouldn't be lost. And for the main goal of, right, helping kids learn and be successful and healthy and safe and all those kinds of things, right? So it's good.
Excellent work.
Okay. Yeah.
I do have one clarifying, I guess maybe more statement. So I was contacted over the last couple of weeks around, I think people misunderstanding that we hadn't opted in to do this yet. But it sounded like we hadn't done that because you wanted to make sure we weren't going to lose our Title I funds. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, and the at-risk funding. So like I said, like we're a higher percentage than the state average. And so we really just wanted to take the time knowing that all this work is going on at the state level with this work group on at-risk and the final rulemaking to make sure that we weren't going to hurt ourselves in other areas of our funding too by making that decision.
Right, and then I think there was some confusion too that the board had voted no on this, which this is not a board decision. This is something that obviously you all were, like I like to say, measuring twice, cutting once, and making sure that we weren't giving up other funding in place of this, and making sure obviously that we get both. And then it's just something that will now move forward with the district, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I just think there was some misinformation out there this week that somehow the board kind of dropped the ball on this, and that's not the case at all. And I knew we were going to get presented from you all, and I figured that this would come up. But I do appreciate you looking that we didn't want to lose our title funds, which are really important for our district, and other at-risk funds, because those are important pieces that play in the district as well. And obviously, I had given them some confidence that we would probably be moving forward this way, but we just wanted to make sure that everything was good. So I appreciate the the clarification on that.
Yeah, we'll be doing a lot of communication follow-up like I talked about. We'll do the letter to parents through PageJar, all that, and then repetitively over the next few months. I think hopefully that'll help negate some of that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, the concern from our end was never whether this was a good program. It was whether or not there were unintended consequences, as Mel mentioned. So, yeah, we got some of the same questions that came to us. And so I just want to be clear about that. We think this is a good thing for kids. We just want to make sure that we had all the information before making a decision. So, and yeah, thanks to Mel and Dan for all y'all's work on this. I do want to say, I've got a 9-year-old at home who is the pickiest eater in the world. And this year, he decided he's going to start eating school lunches, and he loves them. So I don't know what you're doing.
All right.
But it's pretty amazing, so.
It's not me, it's my team at the schools. They're doing it.
Yeah, I want you to stay here. This is a little bit of trivia for our board. Does anybody know when did the school lunch program begin and why?
Before me, which is a long time.
Yeah, before me too, and I'm older.
That's a long time ago.
You know.
Yeah.
Do you guys?
Post-World War II. Go ahead, Doug.
It was after, I know this because I did a research paper on this, but
Yeah.
I had them both back in graduate school.
Yeah.
No, it was really fascinating that it started because when soldiers were being drafted or whatever into World War II, they found how malnourished our population were. The soldiers came in malnourished. And so it was actually a National Defense Act to do that. And then in the 60s, I believe, is when the breakfast program came about. Because
That's
it was
correct.
first just lunch, and then later was breakfast.
Yep.
So for national defense, and
Yeah.
and so I passed the class. So here.
Yeah, this is a historic change. It really is. State of Colorado, and only about 2 others. Actually, more states are now doing it, but there's still just a handful of states. So.
And the other thing that's really interesting is that over the years, when you talk about people who would get their lunches paid for, even the students that would pay full price, it's still being subsidized by the federal government. There are some districts, Aspen was one I remember, that took no funding, and their lunches were astronomically high. But so it's never been a free lunch for anybody, or it's been compensated lunch for people. So it's been a good thing for nationally is a great thing, and you've done a great job taking advantage of but taking the opportunities for the grants that are available, not just for the food, but for your outfitting the kitchens and staff and everything else. So you guys have done a great job.
Thank you.
Important work.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right, well, Melanie can stay up here because we have our auditor request for proposal update.
All right. So I don't have a formal presentation. I just kind of want to update you guys on what's happened. So last month, I sent you all an email informing you that our auditor, CSD, had told us that they would no longer be able to service our audit, which was a big surprise and pretty disappointing because they've been our partner for a long time in our audit, and really not just the audit piece that we always present to you guys, but just the advising piece that goes around year-round far as what best practices are, if there are GASB pronouncements that we need to implement, that they're helping us and really working alongside us to make sure that we're implementing them appropriately. And so there's really a lot of work that we work with whoever this auditing firm is outside of just our formal audit as well. And so since that time that we were notified, we've put out a formal RFP in order to gain some other interest and be able to hopefully have some requests for a new auditor. And so that was launched on March 14th. And to date, we've received some questions from some interested firms. It's out there on the Rocky Mountain eBid system. And we know that there's been 19 vendors that have looked at it and downloaded our RFP. So hopefully there's some interest out there. But that process will close on this Thursday, April 6th, where they need to submit a submittal by then to us. From then, we'll review any of those audit firms that are interested and put together an interview team, which will be April 13th and 14th is what we're targeting for. We're working on putting together a committee, which will obviously consist of our finance staff, several of our accountants and myself, our accounting supervisor. We'll have a representative from the Fiscal Oversight Committee as well. We would love to have at least one board member participate if anybody is interested and available on those days. I think that would be good because ultimately we're going to be bringing our recommendation to you for approval at the April 18th board meeting is what our goal is, as long as we receive interest. So, yep, 13th and 14th of April. It's that Thursday and Friday. So depending on how many firms we're interviewing, we'll likely not need all of those 2 days, but a portion of those days. And again, bringing forward a formal resolution, because that is one of the things that you guys approve, is who our auditor is. As much as we just wrapped up our audit, May is really when we start engaging in audit work and field work going into June, even ahead of the fiscal year ending. So we're hopeful to have a new audit firm on board and under contract that we can start that work with. Any questions on those pieces? Anybody so excited about the 13th and 14th?
Not really, but I've done it before, so I'm happy to help. I mean,
I
I've
would
had to hire auditors before, so.
Yeah, I would love to have you sit on that.
Will and Angela, do you guys want to? Okay, great. You can
Split it up.
Perfect.
However you want to utilize us.
Perfect. I'll be sending you guys more information then. Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Awesome. Dr. Hill, do you have anything else, or are we ready to? We have board open discussion. I just didn't know, sometimes you.
Yeah, I did want to give an
wrap up
update
thoughts.
on, round of applause? Oh,
Wrapping up thoughts.
oh, pause. Oh, you said a round of applause. You did a good job,
Clap
Mel.
for Melanie, too. No, a lot of times you have a concluding thought, so wrapping up thoughts, not round
done
of
with
applause.
concluding thoughts. No, it's not on the agenda, but I did want to give a quick update on the committee for elementary schools, because I said I would do that at the last meeting. So I don't have a whole lot to update because we haven't actually met yet. But just a couple things. So one, the facilitating duties are going to be shared. So at first it was just going to be me, but Dr. Medved and then Paul Jaby, one of our site directors, are going to help me with this process because it's going to be a lot of work. And so I appreciate both of them for not only doing their normal day-to-day jobs, but they're going to help with this as well. So we did send out invites to committee members asking them to be a part of this. And just as a reminder, and this is straight from the resolution language, so it's nothing new, but the charge for the committee was to continue the work that was already started, review the data that has been presented, acquire additional data if necessary, study all options, including the benefits and ramifications of closing elementary schools, better educate the community on the issues surrounding the enrollment declines and the effects enrollment decline can have on the district, and then develop recommendations to address declining student enrollment. And so we did identify members to invite. I'm appreciative we have gotten emails from people in the community saying, I want to be on this committee, and I appreciate that, and I want to recognize that. I do think that we had to have some sort of criteria or parameters around who was invited, because if not, then it could be like, well, why'd you put that person on there? And you like that person, you don't like that person. So we tried to make it as simple as possible. And so we pulled in elementary teachers and administrators who are currently on existing district advisory committees. So I have a superintendent teacher advisory committee with over 30 teachers on it. So I've asked teachers from that committee to be on it. We also have a superintendent principal advisory committee. So I've asked folks from that committee to be on there as well. And then we also have invited family members who serve on our DAC. So that's our district accountability committee. And so we've invited family members that are on the DAC as well. And then we also have community partners that we have sent invites out to, serving in varied roles, such as city planning, community assets, folks from our minority advisory committee, and then people from our strategic plan priority area work groups. And some of those entities, City of Grand Junction, City of Fruita, the county, the chamber, GJEP, and I mentioned the minority advisory committee. And then we will have folks from our senior leadership team, obviously there at the meetings, helping provide data, answer questions. If there's data that the committee wants additionally, then we can go out and get that. And then we also have some of our Board of Education members we've asked to be a part of the process too. And then Callie will be in the meetings to help with communications, and she's been in some of the planning meetings with us as well. So all in all, outside of just like senior leadership people, we're looking at about 20 folks from outside of district level staff and senior leadership level staff that'll be a part of this. We don't have we're waiting on a couple people to get back to us. We told them we hope they let us know by the close of business tomorrow. And if for some reason we get somebody that says last second, like, no, I can't, then we'll try to find a replacement for them. But the goal would be to have all the representatives from those different organizations on there and groups. Just so you know kind of the timeline, so we are planning on trying to meet second and fourth Tuesdays of each month for about 4 hours at a time. And then we know in May we're going to have to reschedule the second one because it ended up being the last day of school, which wouldn't be smart to pull teachers and principals from their school buildings. So, but the goal right now is to at least get 2 meetings in a month, at least 4 hours at a time. And if we need to add more, hopefully we won't, but if we do, we will. Summer months, we're going to have to work with the committee because we know people start going on vacation and things like that. So, but having enough time to meet to actually get through this work. And then we will provide updates. Those will be separate from my Friday updates. I don't really want the superintendent Friday update to turn into the school enrollment update. So we'll send a separate update, ideally on Thursdays. I'm looking at Callie because she's going to be working on that. But ideally on Thursdays after we have meetings out to the community families and say, this is what happened in the meeting, this is what we talked about, so that folks are brought along in that process. And then I will give an update. We'll give an update at the work sessions to the board as far a formal update at the board meetings at those work sessions. If we have to add another one to a business meeting, we'll do that as well. But at least doing updates there. And so again, the first meeting is coming up next week, and then we'll have a lot more information, obviously, after that, once we start actually meeting to give to the board. So just want to give an update on where we are in the process. I am very appreciative of Dr. Medved and Paul. We've met, I think, 3 or 4 times just already this week alone on planning out what these sessions will look like, what we anticipate we'll need to review with the group, but then also wanting to be accommodating to the group if there's information that they need available, that we can have time to get that to them. And so, yeah, Dr. Medved's here if you have any questions, but that's really all we have at this point because we're just still putting the committee together. So he's saying, no, don't ask him any questions. Okay. So that's all I had.
I can't think of anything. Does the board have any other open discussion?
Not really open discussion, but I just want to kind of give a little shout out. One of our educators lost her husband to cancer, so it was one of her thoughts and prayers go out to. I don't want to put her out there like that, but our thoughts and prayers go out to her, and we're all praying for her. So.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are going to, since we had a meeting last week around the curriculum and we tabled that, we're now going to call it a business meeting together because the board needs to approve the curriculum adoption. So we'll go ahead and call that meeting to order. Bridget, if you'd like to do roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Heights?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Lima?
Here.
Mr. Levinson?
Here.
Dr. Schultes?
Here.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Angela.
Okay, Mrs. Heights?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima? Yes. Mr. Levinson? Dr. Schultes?
Yes.
All right, do I have a motion to approve item C, which would be, we have C3, we have A1, A2, A3, and then C3B. So we have advanced placement English language and composition, advanced placement world history, advanced placement art history, and then high school science resources.
So moved.
Second?
All right, and then discussion on any of those resources?
I just want to thank the people involved for the job they did to get everything taken care of. And I know there were some questions, but those questions got answered and taken care of in a timely manner. And so I thank those people.
Yeah, thank you for bringing, just keeping the board in the loop and around transparency and the stuff that you saw come up. And then I feel confident in the additional meetings I had last week of just getting clarification. I think really knowing that there's no perfect resource out there. You know, we're always, and that's really the job of our curriculum team, is to take that resource and then use that in guiding with what we want to do with the state standards and the rigor that we will, adhere to with those. And then making sure that that works within our community and our community of learners. And so any resource that we adopt, our team is always going to have to take and kind of work within that to tweak it or do whatever they need to for our particular community. And so I feel very confident with both the resource and the questions I had, along with the professional learning aspect of that really our team is kind of that stopgap when it comes to making sure that the resource will work with our community. So I think you guys have done a great job, and thank you for your work on that, so.
Thanks for saying that, I don't have to.
Oh, is that what you were gonna say? Oh,
Pretty much.
well, that's just how I felt after, going through that process. So thank you guys for answering all those questions. So, all right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we can go ahead and call the vote.
Mrs. Heights?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes. All right, do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, thank you, everyone. Who was taking?